Asuka is considered one of the top women's wrestlers in the world today. She stands out from her peers due to her exceptional in-ring skills, magnetic charisma, long-lasting career, impressive adaptability, and strong connection with her fans. With all these attributes, she has become a multi-time WWE Women's World Champion with numerous memorable reigns. However, Asuka wasn't always known by that name, and her journey hasn't always been smooth, particularly during her time wrestling in Japan under the ring name Kana. In 2014, while still wrestling in Japan, Asuka was involved in a controversial incident during a match against one of the most infamous figures in Japanese wrestling, Minoru Suzuki, often referred to as the Murder Grandpa. In this match, Suzuki completely overpowered Asuka, crossing the line of what is acceptable in intergender wrestling, making the encounter resemble a brutal assault. But why did Suzuki go so hard on her? And how did the situation escalate to that point?
Professional wrestling is my life!
Asuka, born in Osaka, Japan in 1981, grew up a huge fan of professional wrestling. Strangely enough, she wasn't drawn to Joshi wrestling, Japanese women's wrestling, despite its rich history. Instead, she admired male wrestlers, with legends like the Great Muta, Antonio Inoki, and Minoru Suzuki among her heroes. Ironically, someone she would make headlines with later in her career. Although she had a deep love for wrestling, Asuka initially pursued a different career path, working as a graphic designer and journalist in the video game industry, another of her passions. Her current YouTube channel is a reflection of this interest. Despite her success in the gaming world, she couldn't ignore her passion for wrestling. In 2003, she decided to quit her job and begin training as a professional wrestler, making her in-ring debut in 2004 under the ring name Kana in the all-female promotion Major Girls Fighting Atos, formerly known as Arsion. However, her wrestling career faced a major setback when she was forced to retire in 2006 after being diagnosed with chronic nephritis, a kidney condition aggravated by the physical demands of wrestling. After stepping away from the ring, she started her own graphic design agency. But the itch to return to wrestling was too strong. And by 2007, just a year and a half after retiring, she made her comeback. As Asuka rebuilt her name in the wrestling world, she worked across various Joshi promotions, as Japan's wrestling scene is more fragmented than the US, especially for women's wrestling. While WWE dominates American wrestling, Japan's top promotion, New Japan Pro Wrestling, doesn't feature women's wrestling, leaving that space to smaller promotions. Asuka gained her greatest recognition in the promotion Pro Wrestling Wave, where she became one of its top stars. It was here that she formed the stable Triple Tails alongside Io Shirai, now known as Io Sky in WWE, and Io's sister Mio Shirai. Although Triple Tails dominated the Joshi scene, the group disbanded after about a year. Everything changed for Asuka in 2010 when she released a manifesto in Weekly Pro Wrestling magazine. This was no ordinary manifesto. It was a sharp critique of the Joshi wrestling scene, which she found overly stylized and more focused on appearance than substance. She also criticized her fellow Joshi wrestlers, attacking both their personalities and their wrestling skills. Asuka essentially unleashed a scathing critique of the industry, calling for improvements, even though she was still relatively new to the scene. While her points weren't entirely wrong, many saw her as an inexperienced wrestler who was overstepping her bounds by publicly condemning the industry. In Japan, where respect for seniority and conformity is highly valued, this bold move put her on the bad side of many peers and promoters. She was heavily criticized in the media and accused of being too stiff and reckless in the ring. Despite the backlash, Asuka began producing her own wrestling shows under the banner Kana Pro. The fact that she could still attract large crowds in Japan, despite being disliked by peers and promoters, showed just how popular she was. One of her biggest detractors was Nanae Takahashi, co-founder of Stardom, a wrestling promotion established in 2011. Asuka even claimed that Stardom was created specifically to oppose her. Due to her real-life rivalry with Takahashi, Asuka was effectively blacklisted from Stardom. Nevertheless, she continued to thrive, drawing large audiences in Japan and also getting booked in the US for promotions like Shimmer and Chikara. Some of her most notable opponents in the American independent scene included Sarah Del Rey, Mia Yim, Nikki Cross, and Athena. In addition, she debuted two new wrestling personas in 2013, Kana Zombie and Kana Clown. which featured dark, nightmarish makeup and an eerie, menacing presence. Her use of the poison mist also became a signature move. Her current WWE persona is a callback to this phase of her career, where she embraced a more fearsome and disturbing character, which resonated with fans and elevated her popularity. Despite the industry's efforts to undermine her, Asuka continued to rise to the top. Her charisma and creativity set her apart, allowing her to play both a lovable babyface and a terrifying heel. Fans could sense her genuine passion for wrestling, which drew them to her. Asuka was also a proponent of intergender matches and frequently wrestled against men. This led to the 2014 incident during her self-produced show, Kana Promania, where she teamed with pro wrestling Noah star Naomichi Marufuji against Joshi legend Meiko Satomura and her childhood hero Minoru Suzuki. By this time, Suzuki had built a fearsome reputation as one of the toughest wrestlers in Japan. The match began as expected, but things quickly escalated when Suzuki's interactions with Asuka became increasingly stiff. He hit her with brutal strikes, including a knee to the face and several hard elbows. As Asuka tried to fight back, Suzuki no-sold her offense and began manhandling her. What started as a typical intergender match soon crossed the line into uncomfortable territory. As the match progressed, Suzuki delivered one of the hardest headbutts seen in wrestling, followed by dragging Asuka around the ring by her hair and repeatedly slapping her while pinning her to the mat. Despite attempts from her partner Marufuji and even Suzuki's teammate Satomura to intervene, Suzuki continued the assault. He finished the match with a piledriver, ending what many saw as a deeply disturbing encounter. Although this brutal beating was planned and agreed upon by both parties, it sparked controversy due to its extreme nature. Suzuki later revealed that Asuka had asked him to be as rough as possible, wanting to prove her toughness. While this match was an intentional work shoot, it highlighted the dangers of intergender wrestling when boundaries are pushed too far. After this match, Asuka began to take fewer bookings in Japan, leading to speculation about her retirement. However, she surprised everyone by appearing at an NXT TakeOver event in the US, announcing that she had signed with WWE. The rest, as they say, is history. Asuka has gone on to become one of the greatest WWE women's wrestlers of all time. But her journey through Japan and her intense match with Minoru Suzuki remain defining moments in her storied career.